What is up, guys? Zach Castigood Miniatures back with another video, and this time we're going to be talking about the top 10 entries into our Mordheim Painting Challenge. Before we jump in and take a look at the entries, let me first introduce to you Dark Ages Workshop. He has helped me coordinate this challenge and is also here with me on this video to help me judge the entries.
Greetings everyone, and thanks for having me.
If you haven't heard of Dark Ages Workshop, he is a miniature painter broadly working in a low fantasy to medieval Grimdark style. He covers a lot of the Mordheim material and is currently working on Grimdark Compendium's Guide to Mordheim. If you don't know anything about that series, definitely head over to the grimdarkcompendium.com and check that out. All right, so let's take a look at the judging criteria. There's going to be 4 categories. The first one's going to be technical and modeling aspects of the miniature, and then we're going to have a look at the painting, photography, and then the Mordheim element. And I'll let Dark Ages Workshop explain to you guys what we're looking for when it comes to the Mordheim element. So just to give you some more insight, for technical and modeling aspects, we're going to be looking for things like kit bashing, composition, sculpting, and the pose of the miniature. For painting, we're going to be looking at how well the miniature is painted in the Grimdark style, so things like weathering, surface finish variations, textures, and environmental effects, or just how well the miniature is tied into the basing. And then for photography, it's pretty straightforward. We're just going to take a look at the lighting, the composition, and the clarity of the details. And then, as I was saying, for the Mordheim element, we'll let Dark Ages Workshop explain that.
Yeah, so let's define a little bit more in detail what we mean with the Mordheim element as a judging criteria. We're gonna look at how the model is appropriate to the well-established aesthetic of the rulebook, but also consider how the artist gave their own personal twist to the composition and nailed down what we consider the fundamentals of how to get Mordheim in the Grimdark style. These fundamentals are rooted in how well the characters reflect the decrepit world around them, on a physical, mental, and moral level. We're looking at the inclusion of elements such as the corruption of the soul, the weird and absurd, or alchemical and occult symbolism, and finally, the authenticity to the style of the rulebook, or a personal interpretation of it, while maintaining a low fantasy Grimdark aesthetic.
Alright, so in typical Grimdark Compendium fashion, we're going to immediately narrow down the field from 10 entries to 5. So the first person to be eliminated is going to be Gangs of Mordheim. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and knock out Nebulous Prime. And the next person to be eliminated is going to be Nocturnal Rite of Paint. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and get rid of Dead Do Speak. And then finally, the last person to be eliminated is going to be Killing Cold. Alright guys, so now that we have the top 5 entries, we're going to go ahead and dig in and start scoring these individually. The first person we're going to look at is Luke Mockeridge. Okay, so taking a look at Luke Mockeridge's entry, and we're going to first look at the technical modeling category. 30 points, looking for things like kit bashing, composition, and just modeling in general. So overall, build looks pretty solid. I think some of the bits here, like the head there is Garden of Hecate.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, what did you say the body was? I can never remember what this body is.
This body is from the Blood Bowl kit of the Urgle Rotters.
Okay. Alright, so I believe the body over the shoulder, the corpse that it's carrying is a 3D print.
Yeah, it looks so.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the only weird things, and we've talked about this, is the right arm. So how the right hand is positioned over the shoulder and how it's grasping the body on the shoulder. So
yeah.
if you were to like be holding something on your shoulder that had any weight of consequence. Your elbow would be much higher up. So like your elbow would be pretty consistent with the level of your face and probably not tucked into the body.
Yeah, like
So very slight, it's not a big deal, but it's a little compositionally odd.
yeah, it looks a little bit unnatural, but overall, like the composition and how it ties with the base, I think it's really great.
Okay, yeah, so the base does look really good. So we're going to try to keep the judging of each category to like 5 minutes. If not, the video would probably run on for far too long. So let's go ahead and throw some scores on the modeling and technical side. Overall, looks really great to me. Just did a little bit of confusion about the right arm. It's slightly out of position.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Let me hear your score for Luke on the technical and modeling.
Okay, so my score is 27 out of 30.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 28. Okay, so 27, 28. And then let's go right into painting style. So when it comes to painting, the first thing that I'm gonna notice, so I understand that this model is painted completely in oils. That's stated by Luke himself on the Instagram post. So this is completely painted in oils. So the first thing that kind of catches my attention is the rigidness of the brightest highlights, particularly on the face, and then here around some of the details on the belly. It's not really so bad on the chest, but around these little wounds on the belly and these particularly on the face. So these being oils, there should be no issue with blending out the top side of them. I don't mind how bright they are or how quick they transition, but you can very obviously see a stark line around this wound on the stomach.
Yeah.
And it's pretty stark also in the face. So I just feel like the outside edges of these highlights should be blended out. So like I said, I don't mind the contrast of them. So if you blur your vision, it looks correct.
Yeah, it gives like a nice definition.
Yeah, it's got a really nice contrast to it when you blur your vision. As soon as you focus on it and you can see the hard edges, it looks a little odd.
Yeah, it comes down with the style that the artist wanted to portray. But yeah, maybe some of the highlights, like around the pustules and on the face, they could have been blended a little bit more.
Okay, so if we look at the highlights on the gloves, very similar contrast levels there, but they're blended out much better. There's no hard edge on the highlights on the gloves. And this still retains that sketchy look. I just think the ones on the flesh should have been paid a little bit more attention to. Other than that, like the armor, I love the color scheme on the armor, like the dark and it's I wouldn't say black, but it's like the orange and then like the darker shade there. But yeah, overall color scheme's real simple, very muted, looks really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have liked to seen a little bit of coloration around the nipples, possibly around the wounds on the belly.
Yeah, like some kind of crimson color.
Maybe just a little bit there.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to talk about is the filth tattoo. Now, I'm not sure why this doesn't read as a tattoo to me. It looks painted on. I'm not 100% sure why that is. It looks a little soft, like the edges look a little soft, and it just doesn't read as a tattoo. It looks like it's painted on there.
So you would advise for more hard edges, like more fade? Okay.
Maybe more crisp. All the painting is absolutely fantastic, very well done. In oils, it's pretty tricky to paint all in oils. I would have liked to seen like the base colors, how he handled the base colors. If they're like the way that I do it is I do the acrylic base colors and then I do like a scrubbing techniques, kind of like an
Mhm.
overbrushing or similar to a dry brush application to get the first initial passes of oils down and then just start blending into that because oils are very easy to blend into. But
Yeah, with a similar color to the
yeah,
acrylics
hmm
underneath. Yeah,
yeah, I do that
yeah.
a
I,
lot
I
with
think
fresh.
I think he did some passes at least with some varnish, I guess,
Right.
to make the like the base colors out in oils.
I do like the slight variations in tone on the skin too. So over
Hmm.
here on the right side of the belly, we see like a warmth. So
Hmm.
there's like a movement of warmth here, and then as it moves up into the shadow under the breast, we get a little bit of a cool tone. So I think that's very good. Very good use of using warm and cool tone.
Yeah.
In general, warm tones will pop out more, like when you mix them. Like if you take a photograph of something that has a lot of warm value and cool value, like a mountain scene or something, the mountains closer to you will have a lot of warmth, and the things that are in the distance will be a lot cooler. So using cool values and warm values together will create a lot of space. So that warm value really pushes the gut toward you, and then that coolness under the breast kind of pulls it back. So it creates a lot of space right there. So
Yeah,
it's
a lot of depth. Yeah.
very well done. All right, so excellently painted miniature here. I Go ahead and give me your score for the painting.
So my score for the painting will be 31 out of 35.
Okay, yeah, 31. That's what I was gonna go with. So 31 from myself and 31 from you. All right, let's jump right into photography. So the photography on this is pretty straightforward for me. This is a 15-point category.
Yeah.
And so this to me is photographed near perfectly. Overall, the image has a very good composition. The focal point is off center, which is what you want most of the time. Helps your eye move around the image. So here, like the head for me is the focal area,
Mhm.
and it's not dead center of the image. So there's a lot of movement. Yeah. So when I
That's
look
great.
at this, I start with the head. I'll move down the left arm, follow the left leg to the base, and then this composition of the base, this strong detail of the branch of the root pulls me to the right, up to the tombstone, and then up the right leg to the right arm, and then back. So it moves your eye around in a circle, which is exactly usually how you want to
Yeah,
look at things. It keeps your eye moving, so that's great. And then just the lighting, the depth, the shadow, everything, how it's lit
yeah,
is
the cat's shadows
yeah,
are.
very well
Mm,
done. Yeah, I like having those pure black shadows. The lack of information is sometimes more important than showing every single detail on the miniature.
yeah,
Like,
like the left leg with
y-
the
yep,
boot.
yep,
Yeah,
yeah. We understand what the left leg looks like because we can see that there's a boot, but we also know what the rest of the leg would probably look like by looking at the right leg.
exactly.
So having it
Yeah,
cast in that much shadow, pushes it back and shows a lot of movement, shows that the figure is moving or walking. That helps a lot. That does a lot more than people think. You don't really need to have every piece of the miniature lit.
yeah, and
Um,
overexposed. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
just the.
Lack of information is sometimes far more valuable.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give this a 15 for
Yeah,
photography. I think it's pretty much perfect. Very well
yeah,
done. Okay, so what do you
yeah.
say?
15 from me as well. Because as far as a painting competition goes, this is pretty much like like an example, like a paradigm that you can use as an example on how to portray a figure for a painting competition. I mean,
Yes.
I'm a sucker for, backgrounds made with some terrain, a little bit more atmospheric, also to give context. But the base here does a really nice job of giving context, so it's pretty damn perfect.
Okay, so now we'll move into the final category, which is the Mordheim element. Now, what I'm going to do for that is I'm just going to let Dark Ages Workshop give his score. I will not be giving a score. I do not know enough about Mordheim, or I don't know it as intimately as Dark Ages Workshop does. So we'll just let him give a score. So if you want to give us your thoughts about the Mordheim element on this.
Yeah, absolutely. This character could be a mercenary, or a possessed, or an undead. I can see some storytelling with this character having this body on his shoulder. It really reflects the decay and the absolute demented place that Mordheim can be. So far, I really like the overall narrative element on this piece. I can definitely see the corruption of the soul as an element. What the city of Mordheim can really change about like a person. And this is an excellent portrayal of what the city of the damned can do to someone. That's excellent. And I'm giving in 17 out of 20 for the Mordheim element.
Okay, yeah. I think it's a really super solid entry. Very well done.
Yeah.
Sculpt, everything's, or the build of the miniature. I think there was a little bit of sculpting on this. A little bit of scratch building with plastic card for the rivets and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the rivets and bolts. Yeah.
Yeah. So really solid entry right here. We'll put the total up on the screen, and let's go ahead and move on to the next entry. All right, so let's start with the technical and modeling aspects for Mizu painting. So let's just take a quick look here. I think this model pretty much comes like this, except for the head and the little helmet there. Is that correct?
Yeah, it looks so.
Okay.
I think the body is from like a cursed city expansion, and the head comes from a Warcry warband called the Unmade. I think so, at least.
Okay. All right, and this is probably a little bell or something. I'm not quite exactly sure where that comes from. I'm not sure that's an actual helmet. The thing I'm seeing about it is it looks like it's a little bit off the head a little bit, maybe not centered as well as it could be.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's not much.
A little bit.
Yeah, it kind of adds to it, to be honest.
I think the helmet could be like a bit from Adeptus Sororitas from 40k. Looks like a bell, or like an incense spreader, something like that.
Are those fangs I'm looking at here?
Can't quite understand.
Yeah, it's a little bit rough there. So, and then we have this figure on the base, which to me is not tied in very well. Kind of looks like this character is part of this little scene here, is not acknowledging or interacting with the body on the base, and it just kind of looks slightly out of place. Maybe if the main figure was kind of looking toward it or faced towards it, it would help it a little bit.
Well, of course, I guess there's a story behind this whole piece, and yeah, I agree. The body on the floor looks a little bit out of place. I figure that almost certainly there's like a story behind, and I like actually the fact that the figure is not facing towards the viewer. It looks like its humanity is being completely thrown away by this depraved figure that is walking beside her. Like
Yeah.
also the figure looks, is that like her belly? Is she pregnant?
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm.
I saw it from a different angle. I believe that's a belly there.
Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I guess so. I mean, maybe I do like the angle that the figure is standing, the main figure. Maybe if you just move the base a little bit. I don't know. I think it needs to interact personally, but yeah, I could totally see what you're saying. Another thing that I would have liked to have witnessed is the fur technique on this collar. I would have loved to seen that here. But other than
Like with the fly fishing material.
yeah, like some fur,
Yeah.
like how I did on the Lionel Johnson figure. Maybe an attempt at that would have been really cool.
Yeah. There's like some sort of blanket covering the figure.
Yeah, there and then yeah, so it's a little bit inconsistent. Yeah, so that's like a little bit of fur there, like a fur blanket. Maybe we could have did the same thing on the collar. It's definitely a gamble. It's not a technique that's been explored heavily, so it could be pretty new for a lot of people. But I definitely would have liked to saw it here.
Yeah, some texture differences might always get some interesting results.
Yeah, so overall it looks pretty good. Just a couple issues that with the mouth there. All right, so what do you give this as far as technical and modeling out of 30 points?
I would give this 24.
Yeah, I think I'm about 24, 23. All right, so let's take a look at the painting. So again, painting on the main figure looks splendid. So I love the texture that we have down here on the cloak as it reaches the ground. So it has a very soft, almost fuzzy texture to it. When you get really close to it, it looks like cloth, reads like cloth to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of mottling and textures and different finishes.
Yeah, it looks real dirty. Yeah, so I like it. But even beyond the dirt and the chunks and stuff, it still looks like a bit of cloth there. But again, this figure here painted on the base, particularly the hair, does not look like it's on any level close to what the main figure is painted.
Yeah, frankly, I agree. I agree on that.
Yeah.
Maybe it was kinda made on purpose to show like the difference between humanity and completely depraved state of a completely different and cursed being. But yeah, the hair and also the skin is not at the level of the main figure.
So I like the rust on the helmet here.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly be dirty down, or is that rust? It could be rust. I'm not 100% sure. That might even be a copper or a bronze helmet.
It might be. Yeah, I don't think it's rust.
Yeah, it could be. But whatever it is, the coloration and the variations in color that I see on it, I like. So I see a little bit like dark blue. Maybe how the light's reflecting on it gives it a little bit of a blue value, almost greenish in there. And then we have a lot of warm. So another mix between cool and warm tones. So definitely like how that looks. Unfortunately, the face is out of focus, I guess. It's hard to really tell what's going on there.
Yeah, slightly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the painting on the collar,
Maybe some actual fur would have helped to give some texture variation.
yeah, I think a good opportunity to kind of push a boundary here. Maybe he's not comfortable with trying it, but I think this would have been a good opportunity to try it. Another thing I noticed is the belt here. So it looks like a part of the belt is not painted right there.
Oh.
But I do see a reflection. Okay. So I see like a little reflection here on the hip.
Yeah.
That would denote a little bit of surface variation, because we have a very dry, dusty look here. And then we come up here and we're having more of a satin finish gloss on the hip. So I like that. I do like that a lot. Unfortunately, the face is out of focus, so it's really hard to tell what's kind of going on there. It looks like it's very simply painted to just kind of look fleshy and a little bit morbid.
Yeah, I think it's the artist wanted to give like a flayed skin effect. Maybe a little bit of like satin varnish would have helped also sell a little bit more the effect of humid muscles.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect in contrast with the very matte and chalky look of the fabric.
Yeah, the checkered pattern's done really well.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looks good. And even in that, as dark and shadowed as that is, we see a lot of modeling happening. Even in the black, there's some areas in the black where you see a little bit of lighter specks.
Yeah, like the pigment powder. Exactly.
Yeah, so it's good.
There's some rust on the sword, the saber.
That's perhaps one of those. Yeah, that's one of those instances where the lack of information is just as good as seeing it lit all the way and being able to tell exactly what's going on. I'm not very concerned about what that sword looks like. Overall, when I look at this miniature, I know that it's holding a sword.
Yeah. The silhouette speaks for itself.
Yeah, so the lack of information there, I'm fine with. Again, there's certain instances in miniature painting where the disclusion of information is often as strong as fully detailing it, but not in this situation on the belt. You definitely want to paint that little part of the belt there. Teeth, I'm still weird. The teeth weird me out. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe that's some UHU forgot to paint or something. That glue.
I don't know. They might be fangs or some sort of, maybe UHU glue. I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right, so I'll give my score first on the painting.
Okay.
And then you can tell me what you think.
Okay.
So out of 35, I am going to give this a 22. I'm going to be pretty critical about a couple things, so I'll explain why I give it a 22.
Okay.
There's a lot I like about it. I think the fur was a little bit too simplified in how it was handled. Now, when I paint fur, which I try not to do, I try to use actual fur always, because it's very hard to paint a fur that's convincing and not just highly stylized and cartoony looking. So when I paint fur, I do try to keep it simple as well, but this is a little bit too simple. And the other thing is this yellow hair down here. This whole figure down here really kind of messes me up about the whole piece. And then we got a part of the belt here that's not painted. And it's that part that might not seem like a big deal, but it's very near a critical area of this model, which is that satin highlight. So that satin highlight denotes a very strongly appointed sense of surface finish variation. And I love to see that kind of stuff in a painting, a miniature painting.
Yeah.
But when I look at it closely and I see like, uh-oh, we missed the spot.
Especially since basically 70% of the model is cloth. You really want to focus on those different materials to give that contrast. Those opportunities that the bits give you are crucial sometimes, and I agree on that.
Okay, so what do you score this?
I scored this at 26.
Okay, all right, so let's go to photography. Now, I think this shot is lit very well. I think it's framed very well. It's very nice composition to the photo. The information, the focal points are not in obvious center spots, so your eye moves around it pretty well. The only thing is we're slightly out of focus on the face, which most of the time the face is the first place you're gonna look. So that's my only issue with the photograph. So I'm going to score that a 13.
My score will be 13 as well.
Okay. Yeah, so cast shadows, all that, perfect. Some places lacking information due to complete darkness, perfect. You know, that's really a part, in my opinion, of the Grimdark painting styles, how it's photographed. So we want areas on the model that are pure black. Even if it's painted, we don't care. We don't care to show it. You have enough information about this area to know what the whole area looks like. We don't need to see up in that crack. It can be completely black. That's perfect. All right, so Mordheim element. What do you think?
As far as the main figure goes, I figured this could be like a vampire queen. Of course, this duality of this human being laying on the ground and this monstrous and vicious creature that is walking by in this swaying way of walking. It's stylish, and I wouldn't see it as something that is really traditional to the style of Mordheim, but as we said, I like when artists give their own twist to the whole thing. I would score this a 16 out of 20 in Mordheim element.
Okay. All right, so put the score up, and then we will now move on to the next entry. So let's go ahead and start with the modeling and technical aspect for Bellisario, 30-point category. So let's dive in here. Now this is a very interesting looking model right off the bat.
Absolutely.
So as I was watching the Grimdark Compendium's guide to Mordheim, I saw in the corner of one of the pages of the rulebook there's an image similar to this guy's, at least head and shoulder area.
And the cannon.
Yeah, and the cannon. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is really inspired by a drawing from the rulebook at the end of the rulebook.
So how much of this is sculpted?
I can't tell. I don't recognize any plastic kit. I'd say this is all resin. I don't know, maybe the pants are sculpted.
Maybe a little bit of 3D printing here on the head. I see a little bit of texture that would denote 3D printing.
Yeah.
The texture of that 3D printing really works with the skin texture.
Yeah, it's ironic that it looks like almost like wrinkles on the forehead.
I think there was a fair amount of sculpting in this.
Yeah, possible. Maybe the sleeve and the pants.
Yeah, because the proportion of the arm is very elongated,
Mm-hmm.
which I like. I love that. Yes, this is pretty fantastic. Love the little cannonballs there on the base. The base is probably the weakest part, and while I do like the rope going around his arm over the cannon, I would have maybe liked to seen a little bit different texture. I guess this is copper wiring used here. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be cloth or maybe like some kind of rope material. But it looks metal to me. I would have liked to seen like a woven pattern in it somehow. But yeah.
Fantastic composition, in my opinion, and texture variety.
Oh, yeah.
Also the hair. There's a chunk of hair that also is.
That's great. All right, what do you think? What's your score out of 30?
My score would be 28 out of 30. What's your gripe with the base?
I can plainly see what the base is and the material that it's supposed to represent. In comparison to the figure itself, it's just not on the same level. I think maybe going with a bigger base might have helped, just maybe one step up.
Yeah, maybe.
I want to see more information on the base. I think a base about the size that Luke used would have been even more appropriate here.
Yeah, probably like a 40 or 60 millimeter base.
When I blur my eye and I just look at the composition and the forms and the lighting of everything, and I'm not really focusing in on one spot, blurring my vision, the base reads well enough, just not on the same level with this base as compared to the miniature.
Okay.
So what I will do for my score, I'm going to give it 29. Like I said, the basing's not a big deal. To me, it's just not near the same level because I'm kind of mind blown at this a little bit. This is blowing my mind a little bit, but I'm just not interested in the base as much as everything else, which is fine. That's fine, but I think that basing and environments are equally as important as the miniature. All right, painting style. Right away I see surface finish variations. So I'm not really sure where it's coming from, but it doesn't matter. It looks like the drip starts here underneath the cannon, goes down, some on the leg here.
Below the armpit.
Yeah. So it looks like even the eye is glossy.
Yeah. It has a reflection.
Or just like that's a perfectly painted pupil there. But yeah, I love the surface finish variations that I'm seeing on here. Coloration on the skin is really well done.
Yeah.
Has a lot of tonal value, very subtle transitions, high contrast. I love seeing this pure black of the brow next to the next to the pure white of the nose. Well, it's not pure white, but it's very brightly contrasted on the nose. And then the eye has a slight pinkish tone to it, which is excellent.
Yeah, almost like veiny and absolutely demented. I love this. What about the cannon?
Yeah, the cannon looks good. It's a little bit indistinct. I'm fine with things being indistinct. I think that's always important to do. On this particular figure here, I'm just sucked right into this face. It's the focal point of the miniature and it's very strong. The cannon's handled properly. It's well done. It's just indistinct, which is fine. It looks like an old cruddy something he found in some kind of
decrepit hamlet or something, or I don't know.
Maybe like an old bog or something, like a broken little cannon, pulled it out of there and strapped it on his back.
Yeah, we also have the checker patterns.
Yeah.
As anything Mordheim.
Yeah, I like the little color, the little bit of red here.
Like scarves.
Yeah, like the scarf that he has there. Yeah, really cool. Flesh tones. You can tell it more so on the arm here. It has a lot of cool and warm value.
Exactly. I am so impressed by the face all around. The whole model is pretty much perfect, fantastic. But the face and the contrast of warm and cold, it's really remarkable.
Yeah, I'm trying to find something I can criticize, but I can't really. Yeah, I mean the surface variations, even here on his hand, that's blurred out. You see a little bit of light reflection. The hair does look a little metallic. I think it's supposed to be black greasy hair or something, but it looks like metal a little bit.
Yeah, same sentiment. Though I think I read it as greasy and sweaty hair, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess this is supposed to read as metal string or cord that he has going around the top there. It's not bad. It could have used a little bit more, to be honest, but it's like I said, it's not bad.
Absolutely.
Cannonballs are odd. Shouldn't they be black?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more on the darker side.
Right, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, they look reflective, and when I imagine a cannonball, I imagine something black.
Black. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I'll let you give your score for the painting. What do you think?
I think this one is almost perfect. It was striking to see. I'm gonna give this a 34 out of 35.
Yeah, I tend to agree. This is almost perfectly done as far as Grimdark style. Everything I'm looking for, texture, weathering, surface finish variations.
It's all there.
Yeah, it's all there. Even tying it into the base, so there's not a lot of mud present on this base. Maybe down at the bottom of the base, you get a little hint that there's some mud in the area or dirt, as well as this rocky outcropping. So you see that slightly on the boot, and that's just perfect. That's all you need. That's all you need. Yeah, and then this face is just insanely good. I think we'll go 34 as well.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable.
All right, so photography, what do you think?
This is another example of a perfect photo, in my opinion. The only thing that is slightly, out of focus is that tool for the Canon. But as far as presentation goes, I think this is another 15 full score for photography.
Okay. Yeah, I also tend to agree there. I mean, this is for people that entered this competition. Most of the ones that I didn't consider was purely based off the photography. So the photography on a lot of these entries was poor in comparison to this. This is what you want your photographs to look like, especially if you're entering it into a competition that you want to be considered for or taken serious. This is the quality of photo that you want. So this is a very, very good photo. And you might say, oh, his back leg's out of focus or his back arm is out of focus. That's perfectly acceptable. We don't have to have all that to be perfectly in focus. The main focal areas of the miniature that the artist is wanting you to look at is perfectly in focus.
Perfectly readable and recognizable. All the variation and also the cast shadows are in the perfect places.
Right, yeah, so lit from above, maybe slightly in front of the model, but from above, so we're getting the correct angle. So yeah, I will also give this a 15 on photography. Okay, so Mordheim element, that's all you, buddy.
Yeah, starting from the fact that this miniature was basically, I assume, inspired by a drawing from the official rulebook. It doesn't have to be 100% the same, and this is another perfect example on how an artist can give their own twist and interpretations on the formula, like on the established aesthetic of Mordheim. Even if, it's more on a sort of more realistic style than of the rulebook, I can see like the deformity and the elongated arm, as you told before. That's a perfect example. This looks like a poor, demented person that has been like exploited by someone. I can read the fury in his eyes. It perfectly conveys that element of madness and complete dementia of the spectrum of human emotion portrayed. It's absolutely fantastic. I think the Mordheim element for this one would be 19 out of 20.
I will go ahead and say that he did send a narrative with this. So he definitely had a narrative, and I personally love seeing that in the entries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that when someone comes up with a narrative for their miniature and they let you know about the history, how the figure came to what it is presented before you, it's very interesting.
Absolutely gives all the context and all the love that is deserved.
All right, so let's do the technical and modeling for Drowsy Cobra. Looking at this myself, I'm not 100% where any of these bits come from, and I'm not sure that this is a standard miniature.
I can recognize again the mighty Blood Bowl kit from the Nurgle Rotters. The body and the arms are from that kit. The right leg, the iron greave, I think is from a Nurgle kit, most likely. The thigh, the right thigh, might be sculpted.
Yeah, looks very interesting model. I definitely like it.
Yeah, I think also the head is from an Ogren, perhaps.
Right, yeah. So unfortunately the head's slightly out of focus in the photograph. Yeah, it's a really good build. I definitely like this creature. I like the pose of it, how it's moving. It's got a lot of movement to it.
Yeah, like it's approaching.
Well done on the build. A little bit gnarly there on the right hand. There's no distinct
Separation.
Yeah, from the hand to the handle of the weapon. But I like how simple the weapon is.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the double chin, the underside of the chin, that's also, I think, sculpted. And therefore, it gives more of this gnarly appearance to this creature.
Yeah, it looks great. What do you score out of 30?
I would score a 24.
Okay, I'm going to go with like a 28. I'm going to go much higher. I think this is very well done. Top tier for sure. As far as miniature building, modeling, yeah, I see a lot of skill involved here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's skill involved. Yeah. Man, I'm regretting everything I say, man. Holy shit. You should give your score first. So we will cut this out, right?
Maybe some of it. Let's let you talk about the painting first. I usually talk about the painting first. What do you think about it?
About the painting?
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as the painting goes, I absolutely love the pale skin and these crimson features, like under the eyes and the lips, and the veiny technique on the right leg. It's brilliant. Maybe a little overdone with the red, going a little bit more watered down and building on top to make it look more deeper within the flesh would have been better in my eyes. Yeah, the painting is really good. Even the checker patterns that is done with red and white this time, it suits the miniature.
Okay, yeah, so when I look at this, I'm first drawn to the little gross area on the leg and the belly, and then down into this greave here. I really love the greave. If you were to look at this not knowing the context that it is a miniature, you would probably mistake that for actual metal. It looks very well done on that.
Yeah.
Highly realistic. So when we get up into this little deformed area of the leg here, yeah, I have a little bit of the same issue. I love the veining, but it's a little bit too on top, so it doesn't look like there's any translucency to the skin. It looks painted on. So I had made a video about this a while back, and a good way to achieve something like that is to go over top of all of this with a very thin layer of oil, because you can apply oils with an airbrush and they go on translucent, so you can see right through them, like a real thin, and it would even blend all this together slightly, and you can go back and remove some of it too if you'd like, but a very thin layer of oil airbrushed on top of this would give this a crazy look, like if all this was just one layer down, but you could still see it. But that's a very strong part of the miniature. Yeah, I think we could have went a little bit extra on that, but we have a little bit of issue with some edge highlighting here, and a little bit of, looks like highlighting on the belly. Very hard edged highlighting there on that.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, I think we can blend those edge highlights out. It doesn't even match really either, because if you look at this arm, so if you take a look at his left arm here, so this left arm has the look of what I'm talking about, how this tumor-looking leg should have been handled. So this arm looks translucent. Aside from the highlights on the knuckles going up the hand, yeah, those need to be a little. If those are blended out, like the finish on this arm in particular, it looks translucent. It looks like things you're seeing things that are underneath the skin. So there's slight marks on the forearm going up towards the elbow. You see like a very slight red line and blue line and little dots, darker, like modeling on there, and some different values, warm, cool, even a very slight touch of green on there. Yeah, that right there is probably the best example of skin that I've seen so far. If he could have continued that look throughout the miniature, that would have been insane. We nailed it on that arm. That arm looks absolutely perfect, especially from the forearm to about the middle of the hand.
Yeah.
So on the face, we have a different story though. So like the eyebrow above the eyes, so the brow line is very hard edged. It almost looks like paint. I think some of the edging on the shoulder pad is a little odd, a little too strong. And even though I know it's checker pattern, from what you say, maybe if it were slightly cleaner and we establish a little bit more that it's checker pattern, it's kind of hard to tell. If you didn't expect it, you wouldn't be able to tell,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little rough. Okay, what's your
my only gripe with this one is the wooden sign and the grass tufts. They're a little bit too like a vibrant green, that it's slightly less cohesive than I would imagine for a Grimdark miniature, especially like the grass tufts. Maybe a little filtering would have benefited this overall composition. I'm perfectly fine with the sign is great. I mean, it even has the nails on top and moss overgrowing like on the wood. It's great, but maybe a different gradient of green would have been more cohesive with the whole figure.
I think he could have taken it a step further
Hmm?
with the green, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if he would have came on here with decay deposits and did little
yeah,
stippling for I mean, obviously this is moss, but there's a type of moss that's a much lighter, almost like I think
gray green,
yeah, it's
like
like a gray.
acidic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like very gray. I think if you did that specifically right around where the cross post is, that would have really looked good because back here on the back, it's kind of indistinct, but that looks really good there behind his
Mhm.
arm. Yeah, that looks really good. But yes, I know what you're saying, but I think he could have taken it if he would have pushed it. He could have went either way, I guess, but I think if he pushed it a little bit farther and gave it a slight bit more variation,
Mhm.
I think that could have worked as well. So the grass tuft in the back there, I definitely don't like that. These up here on those front side are good, but this real big one here, kind of out of place. All right. So what's your score there?
Okay, for painting, my score will be 29.
29. Okay. I'm going to give this probably like a 32. I'm going to say 32. I enjoy a lot about this. I think we missed the mark just barely. Just barely. I mean, this is so close.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my only gripe with the miniature, other than the implementation of this kind of green, is mainly the appearance of the right leg. It reads as like almost a cancerous looking leg, right? But it's a little rough. And on the painting side, yeah, as I said, the veins are, yeah, they painted on top, and more translucency, as also you were saying, would have benefit this more. But
Yeah,
as for everything else, that's another example of really well painted miniature overall.
yeah, it's very, very close to being exceptional.
Mhm.
We need more of the right arm on the rest of the body.
Yeah, the left arm. Yeah.
Yes, correct. Sorry, the left arm. Yeah. Okay. So photography, what do you think?
As for photography, yeah, even this one has a correct type of photography, even if it's, yeah, the face is not super in focus. It's like the sign is more in focus than the face. But overall, like the shadow casting is correct. What do you say?
So I think this photo is probably about 20 to 30% overblown. It's too bright.
Okay.
It's a little washed out in spots, but the most unfortunate thing is the face being out of focus. So we want the face to be in focus. But other than that, it's a pretty good photo. Nice cast shadows. I mean, it's bright. It's just slightly too bright. Just barely, but the most unfortunate thing is the out of focus face.
Yeah.
So I would say like 13 on the photo.
Yeah. I was about to say the same.
Okay. All right, so let's hear what you think about the Mordheim element.
As for the Mordheim element, I can really see this character as maybe part of a possessed warband. And I mean, everything's there. Even if there wasn't like a signpost with Mordheim written on it. This is, yeah, this is Mordheim. We have this sort of body deformation with the bloated right leg. peg leg representing, the missing limbs and the struggle of fighting in the city, and also the soul corrupting element, of course. The pale skin, it's pretty neat as a Mordheim figure overall. I'd give it a 17.
Okay, yeah. I mean, overall, I think it's a great piece.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good.
All of these entries are absolutely great. All of these top 5, even the top 10, there were some really great pieces. And at this point, it's just nitpicking, in my opinion at least.
We're just being critical, yeah.
We're just being critical. Some of these models are absolutely great, better than anything I could ever do. At this point, it's just about, finding the winner for the challenge's sake.
Yep.
So it's all about being critical.
Okay, so let's take a look at the last entry,
Malino.
All right, so for modeling, technical aspect for Malvino. So one of the first things that kind of draws my attention is just how busy the background is behind the miniature. So I like the little gate here. I like the skulls, of course. But I think we got a little bit, just a hair too much going on with the trees. It's a little bit too noisy back there. I definitely love the little pig guy. What do you think about the hair? Is that is this face from somewhere, or is this sculpted?
I honestly don't recognize the face, but I can tell the double chin was sculpted.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all the bits used, I think they're pretty rare. I think something is from Britannia, from the old fantasy. I absolutely love this composition. I personally think the gate and the addition of these natural elements, like those branches, I adore it.
Okay.
I think it is really good. The piglet is absolutely brilliant. The peg leg, the use of the face, that head it adds so much character. I absolutely love the overall composition. As you told me, it looks like he's like freaking out or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's like a lovely composition. But maybe the pose with the hammer put in front like that, maybe another kind of pose would have been benefited better, especially for the photography.
Okay. So a couple things. I think this hand, the choice for the hand bit is, I don't know, particularly not a fan of that. I won't focus on that too much though. Just the right arm hand.
The one with the glove, I assume.
The fingers on that look a little strange. It almost doesn't even read as fingers. Yeah, as far as the overall composition, like with the pig and everything, yeah, we talked about his pose, the way he's holding his hammer. It looks like we're looking at like an instant in time to where he's a gasp, he's frightened. He looks very frightened in his face almost, and then the pig here is very stoic, much more brave looking than the main figure. But it looks like we have a bone, like a femur bone, perhaps, coming out of a sack on the back.
Yeah, it looks like so.
Yeah, I think it's very well put together. Just a couple issues with the base. I think the front side of the base is very weak as well. I know people don't spend a lot of time on their bases. Yeah, I mean, it looks like there was some time spent on the back side of the base, but I think just a little bit too cluttered with the trees. So what do you score this modeling and technical aspect?
So For the choice of bits and all the background, the overall composition, I will give this a 28.
Okay, I think I'll go with a little lower, 25, just due to the couple issues I brought up there, mainly the backdrop and the basing. Yeah, this is really well put together compositionally for the figures and tells a good story. So let's talk about the painting. You want to start with the painting, and I'll.
Yeah. So, for starters, I immediately recognize the use of a more Blanchitsu or Zorn palette with the black, white, yellow, and red, and which is completely Mordheim. This looks like absolutely great attempt at a Blanchitsu style. I'm absolutely a fan of this. Also, I can see a lot of very fine and well done scratchings on the cloth, and all these patterns, the checkers, all those patterns going on with the lower part of the cloth. The hammer looks nice. There's some contrast with the red nose and the contour around the eyes that is a little colder. I really like that effect. I absolutely love seeing these human characters with a red nose. It adds a lot of charisma to the character. The piglet is fantastic. I love how the plumed helmet looks like the dirt on the piglet. And there's a lot of variation with the, I think, reductive technique. I assume the artist here used oils. There's a little bit of dirt under the chin, but overall I think this is pretty much fantastic in terms of an attempt to Blanchitsu. My only gripe would be mainly the background that is definitely not at the same level of the character, and also the same could be said for the base.
Okay. So for painting, and let me say this before I talk about the painting, I am completely distracted by the photography of this piece. Now I can look at this and see through the poor photography and tell that this is very much indeed well painted, and there's a lot going on with it, but the photography is just killing it. So I see in one of the videos on the Grimdark Compendium's Guide to Mordheim, you talk about the colors and how they represent alchemaic properties or rules. Yeah, so I see those are captured here.
Yes.
On the shield. Not very neatly painted, but it looks painted in a way that the character would have painted it.
Yeah.
And then I do enjoy this Zorn type palette, but I think we have like a bit of a contrast. Now there is a version of the Zorn palette that used blues and greens and that sort of thing. So we see that little bit of contrast here. We see, like you were saying, the reddish nose, these crazy looking eyes with the bluish hue under them, perhaps even a bit of makeup or something like that, and then the orange Herbert colored hair. It's like the madness was painted on, so it really conveys the mental state of this person here. But I also like the pig. The pig's flesh is pretty spot on.
Yeah.
If you were to, if you were to take a picture of a pig in this same lighting, it would look almost identical to that. I mean, that looks like flesh.
I agree.
Yeah, very well handled. Still have an issue with this glove here. I even think the crevice washing is overdone. But
maybe a little bit too deep. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see all the detail that went in on the cloth work, and it's very well done. But the photography is just brutalizing this. it really does a disservice to the paint, in my opinion. But yeah, so I really like this as a whole, and I do think it's painted very well, but some of the lighting issues we have are just unflattering, you know. It's a shame, really. So, what do you think for a score?
For the painting style, I will
Yeah.
give this a 34 out of
Okay.
35.
Okay. I'm gonna go with like 33. I believe we'll go with 33. There's, like you're saying, the base is, other than form, almost entirely neglected. Doesn't even look like it has a base color. The way I see this is it almost looks like oils or an enamel wash straight over the plastic. Almost. Maybe there's some metal done on the little fencing here. Some metal, but
Yeah, there is.
yeah, I can see the plastic there. See the plastic on the edges. Maybe that's even plastic on the edges there. Okay, so we got our scores for painting. Let's talk about photography. I've already indicated some of my thoughts on the photography. What do
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah, my gripe with how this model is showcased is the complete absence of natural cast shadows. I can clearly see the detail and the frankly absurdly awesome job on the painting, but it doesn't look really natural. And the overexposure of the miniature does it a little bit of a disservice.
So, what do you think score was?
I'd give a 10 out of 15 for photography.
I'm going to go with a 5 for photography. As you said, I think it's done a real disservice. Malvino's work is on such a level when it comes to Mordheim and what it looks like painted, what it looks like as a figure or as a composition for a miniature project. I think he's captured all that perfectly, but is being robbed of it through the photography. Like, if you were to Google what is Mordheim, this image should pop up,
Yeah,
but it's just,
absolutely.
yeah, I think the photography is very poorly done, and I hope that he would retake it again. And that what's happening here is all the all the shadows we want to see are directly behind the figures. So you can't really see what's going on, all the shadows are directly behind the figures, so you can't even see the cast shadows. The light is very low and in front of the miniature. It needs to be higher. Need to kind of have it lit from just slightly in front and above. But yeah, this is far too blown out. You don't catch any of the natural shadowing. There should be shadows under his arms and chin.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that, unfortunately.
So for the Mordheim element, what do you think?
The Mordheim element is a straight and mandatory 20 out of 20. This looks like something that was completely taken out of the rulebook and made 3D. It's just the most representative Mordheim entry of all of them. As you said, if you look on the internet, what is Mordheim? This should pop up. The madness, the colors, the composition, the narrative, the overall presentation with a little bit of context with all the branches and the gate, and also, of course, the star of the show, the piglet. Animals represented with human features are shown everywhere in the rulebook. This is definitely like 100% Mordheim. Absolutely immediately recognizable.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know a ton about Mordheim, but I can immediately associate this right off the bat, first glance. I completely agree with you right there. Really put together miniature. Everything about it's really great. Just the photography This absolutely kills it. Alright guys, so that's going to pretty much do it for this month's judging video. Big congratulations to Bellisario, and a job well done to Luca Mockeridge and Drowsy Cobra for taking second and third place. If you didn't know, the Grimdark Compendium likes to run these type of challenges almost each and every single month. So if you'd like to participate, the best thing to do is head over to our Instagram and find out what the challenge is for that month. Typically what we like to do is run the challenge from the first of each month to the last day of each month, and then once we have all the entries, we'll bring them into a video like this, narrow it down to a top 10, and go from there. If you guys enjoy this type of video, let us know down in the comments. Typically judging videos like this run on for a very long time. It's a lot of just talking and looking at images. If you find it interesting, let us know. If there's anything you think that we could do better, let us know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you in the next.